皆様、大変お待たせいたしました。ただいま。
Thank you for waiting. I'd like to now open the second Nuclear Supply Chain Symposium. And I shall be the MC for this conference today. My name is Watanabe from Japan and US. First, on behalf of the organizer, I would like to invite the Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Ken Saito, for opening remarks, and he will be giving a video message.
On behalf of the government of Japan, I'd like to extend my greetings at the opening of the second Nuclear Supply Chain Symposium. My name is Ken Saito. I'm the Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry of Japan. I'd like to thank Mr. Grossi, Director General of the International Atomic Energy Agency, or IAEA, and the many international guests joining us today. Looking around the world, there has been a steady acceleration in the reaffirmation of the need for nuclear energy. At COP28 last December, 25 countries released a declaration aiming to triple the world's installed capacity of nuclear power generation by 2050. In the COP outcome document, nuclear power was clearly stated for the first time as a means of decarbonization. There are high expectations for Japan's industry to expand the potential of nuclear power with safety as a prerequisite to help the world achieve both stable energy supply and decarbonization of society. On March 11th, we marked the 13th anniversary of the Great East Japan earthquake. In utilizing nuclear energy, it is a prerequisite that we never forget the lessons learned from the accident at TEPCO's Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power station, and that we take all necessary measures with a high sense of urgency and with the highest priority on safety. During the Noto Peninsula earthquake that struck in January, the safety functions of nuclear power plants were maintained. This was thanks to measures taken based on lessons learned from the Fukushima accident, such as diversification of power supply sources. It also provided an opportunity for new lessons to be learned. Any confidence built up through safety enhancements over a long time can be lost in just a moment of lapse. It is essential to remind us of this as we move forward with the use of nuclear energy. From an industry perspective, ever since the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, demand has fallen significantly, and opportunities to build nuclear power plants have been lost for as long as 13 years. As a result, the technologies, skills, and expertise, and the human resources that collectively underpin Japan's nuclear industry are facing a crisis. Japan takes pride in having developed and maintained a nuclear power supply chain based on solid technology, skills, and human resources. We had realized an extremely high percentage of domestic production, from reactor pressure vessels to small valves, thanks to more than half a century of efforts to develop and maintain competency. It goes without saying that such an advanced industrial base with breadth and depth is important not only for restarting existing nuclear power plants premised on safety as the highest priority, but also for development and construction of the next generation innovative reactors. However, when it comes to the major undertaking of new builds, there is little time left if we want to pass the torch to the next generation. This strong sense of crisis was the backdrop against which our cabinet approved the GX, or Green Transformation Basic Policy, in February last year. This marked a major step by the government toward maintaining and strengthening the nuclear industry base. In addition to new policies, including rebuilding with next-generation innovative reactors, the revised Basic Act on Atomic Energy explicitly states that the government will take necessary measures to maintain and strengthen human resources and industrial infrastructure, as well as to improve the business environment for nuclear energy. Since the establishment of the Nuclear Supply Chain Platform, or NSCP, marked by the first symposium in March last year, METI has provided assistance to approximately 400 nuclear-related businesses across Japan. This includes support for development of technical courses and subsidies for capital investment. We also provide support for participation in overseas projects so that opportunities outside of Japan can be leveraged. METI has led efforts to send joint public private missions to the United States and Canada to pursue opportunities for collaboration on SMRs, for example. This will also contribute to strengthening cooperation around the supply chain with like-minded countries. The proposed budget for the next fiscal year includes a substantial increase in the amount budgeted for such support of the nuclear industry infrastructure to 5.8 billion yen. We will diversify and reinforce policy support more than ever. Today's symposium includes content for students as well. Young people are the future and are indispensable for the advancement of Japan's nuclear power industry. For this industry to grow and develop into a more attractive one, I must ask all of you here today to really join forces. And on this note, I would like to conclude my remarks. Thank you very much for your attention.
ありがとうございました。
Next, I would like to invite the Director General of the IAEA, Honorable Rafael Mariano Grossi, for his remarks. Mr. Grossi, please.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great pleasure and honor to be here with you today for this second symposium. First, I had an opportunity to participate virtually at a distance. Now, albeit breezing through, you know, I've just now arrived from Central Station from Fukushima, where the IAEA and myself are continuing efforts that I believe are directly related to what you do here, because at the end of the day, this moment of anticipation, I would say, this moment of optimism for nuclear industry must be based on confidence. And confidence requires that events, legacies from the past are well taken care of. So I would like to say that I'm very satisfied with what I saw in Fukushima. We are well advanced, and the plant is well advanced in the process of the discharge, controlled discharge of the treated water, which has been at the forefront of quite a lot of international attention these days. But that being said, and of course important as it is, I think your meeting and your efforts are framed in the context of a completely different moment, a different phase in the evolution of nuclear industry. Although sometime in the making, now we can see the consolidation of a number of trends and milestones that are coincidentally indicating that, yes, at this point in time, there is an anticipation. Yes, at this point in time, there is an expectation. Yes, at this point in time, there is a real opportunity for an important and strong comeback of nuclear industry in the world scene. A number of factors have converged to make that possible. It is important to note that for many years now, but now in a very clear, unambiguous way, the global debates about climate change and global warming and all these elements were circulating without addressing what we believed, and I think you would agree with me, was the important missing piece, which was, of course, nuclear energy. And we saw a sea change in terms of the international discourse on nuclear energy just a few months ago in Dubai at the conference of the parties of the Climate Change Convention, where in the end, and after I was there, and after very long and laborious negotiations and consultations, a final document, a final agreement was reached indicating transitioning away from fossil fuels, but for those following these conferences, quite incredibly saying that nuclear energy should be accelerated, side by side with renewables and other CO2-free sources of energy. Of course, you know it, we knew it, we took this as an evidence, but the reality is that an international consensus on this did not exist before. Many people, many decision makers, many governments did not share this view. Now we can say that this is the case. But of course, from words to reality, and you are industry, so you see the real hard end of things, there is a big difference. And here is where we need, and when I say we, I include the IAEA because we are the international global platform for nuclear energy and the promotion of nuclear energy for international well-being and growth. As I was saying, that we need to find the ways in which nuclear has this opportunity. The nuclear of 2024 is not the nuclear of the 1970s or the 1980s, at the halcyon days of nuclear energy. The nuclear of 2024, of 2025, is the nuclear of fleet replacement, is the nuclear of new generation of reactors, is perhaps the nuclear of modularity through SMRs, is perhaps the nuclear of microreactors, is perhaps the nuclear of specially dedicated units linked to specific activities. For example, data centers, desalination projects, or very specific areas of economic activity. So this opens doors, but also creates challenges for all of us and for the industry. And I know that through the establishment of a platform, you are actively looking into the ways and means to do exactly this. In a week from now, in Brussels, the IAEA is convening the first ever nuclear energy summit. In more than 70 years of commercial nuclear operation, there has never been a meeting of heads of states and heads of government around this. And of course, these people are not going to meet with us in Brussels to celebrate the virtues of nuclear energy, because we know it has many. But what we are going to try to analyze is precisely some of the things that you are discussing today. Which are the best ways to make the best of this moment, to realize these opportunities? And there are a number of them. The fact that you are creating a platform, the fact that you are seeking new partnerships is an indication of how to adapt the operation of industry to this new circumstance. We are also going to be discussing with world leaders something which I believe is very, very important and will hopefully be facilitating your work. This is the establishment of a level playing field when it comes to financing. Financing has been a problem, continues to be a problem, and it will continue to be a problem insofar as, or at least for as long as many financial levers in the form of incentives, in the form of public available finance, in the form of the participation of development banks, of the World Banks and other institutions, is not there, which is the case. Believe it or not, the financial structures as they are now are behind the curve. As we are moving and the markets are moving and the demand is there and the projects are there, many financial institutions, believe it or not, continue to include in the provisions, in their statutory provisions, indications that nuclear projects are to be excluded, which is quite amazing. So this is why I think we need to talk at leaders' levels, because these institutions are the instruments of governments. They do not rule what governments do. They are instruments of the policies of governments. And as I have said, the moment is a different one. We are turning a page and we are moving towards something different. We also need, and the IAEA is trying to make a contribution here, as I said, at the level of policy making, in the establishment of platforms for discussion and consideration of problems like standardization and regulatory harmonization. This has been an issue for many years, an issue, if I may say so, around which there has been a lot of discussion, but a bit of circularity in the discussion. We know, and regulators in North America, in Europe, here in Japan, in the Republic of Korea, and in other important countries in nuclear industry, like the People's Republic of China, or even the Russian Federation, or India, or in Latin America, Mexico, Brazil, and Argentina, or South Africa, the regulatory approaches are sometimes divergent and sometimes leading to duplication and delays. Of course, we know it. As I said, I'm coming from Fukushima. We are very much aware of the fact that safety must come first. But safety should not be an element that would thwart, that would asphyxiate the possibilities of industry to move fast. We are moving into serial production. We are moving into new business models which require a dialogue and, if possible, convergence. This is why the IAEA launched NESI, the Nuclear Harmonization and Standardization Initiative, which is precisely that, an effort which, under the same roof, puts industry, puts regulators, puts policy makers. And I'm happy to note that the Japanese industry is represented at these negotiations. So, dear friends, my remarks here are very simple. We all have an opportunity, but we all have a big challenge. We have to deliver, to be successful, and to be part of this great opportunity that it is in front of us. A number of practices and approaches will have to change. I am persuaded that nuclear industry here in Japan and abroad is able to face these challenges. What I can say is that the IAEA is not neutral in this effort. The IAEA will be side by side, working with you, trying to facilitate and open doors for this new moment of nuclear industry. I thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。続きまして、日本原子力
I'd now like to invite Mr. Akio Mimura, Chairman of the Japan Atomic Energy Industrial Forum, or JAIF, to deliver his opening address.
日本原子力
Good afternoon. This is Akio Mimura, Chairman of the Japan Atomic Energy Industrial Forum, or JAIF. We are honored by the large turnout, both in person and online, and particularly by the presence of the Minister of Economy, Trade and Industry, Mr. Saito, via video. And I would also like to thank Mr. Rafael Mariano Grossi, Director General of IAEA, for his speech that he just delivered. And I also see Mr. Olivier Bard, CEO of the French Nuclear Industry Association, GIFEN. Thank you very much indeed. As you are all aware, momentum for proactive use of nuclear energy is growing both domestically and internationally. At COP28 last December, it was clearly stated for the first time in the outcome document that nuclear power is an important means of reducing greenhouse gas emissions. In addition, 25 countries, including the United States, France, the United Kingdom, and Japan, issued a ministerial declaration calling for the tripling of the world's nuclear power generation capacity by 2050 in order to achieve the 1.5-degree target outlined in the Paris Agreement. Ahead of that, in Japan, in May last year, several legislative amendments were made to facilitate maximal use of nuclear power as a proven decarbonizing power generation technology that contributes to energy security and economic security. In line with the government's nuclear energy policy direction and action guidelines, efforts by industry, government, and academia are underway to contribute to such maximal use of nuclear energy. This involves technology development, improvement of business environment, education, and human resource development. The Basic Energy Plan is scheduled to be revised this year, and the next version, which would be the 7th, must, and I believe will, more explicitly refer to the role of nuclear energy for the country in achieving carbon neutrality in 2050 while maintaining international competitiveness. In Japan, a total of 57 nuclear power reactors have been constructed so far. Most of the major components, such as reactor pressure vessels and power generation turbines, are supplied by the domestic supply chain. The domestic supply rate is as high as 90%. Furthermore, we have more than 50 years of experience in maintaining the plants. The existence of such a robust nuclear power supply chain in our country will not only help us maximize utilization of existing reactors, but will also be an advantage for new builds. The nuclear power supply chain is a key element of the nuclear power industry in Japan. In order to maintain this supply chain well into the future, it is essential to build new nuclear power plants in Japan. However, reality is that we do not have specific plans to that effect yet. If the current situation is left unchecked, more suppliers may withdraw from the business, which will inevitably lead to the weakening of the industrial base, such as shortage of human resources and decline in skills and expertise. Both nuclear operators and the government have responsibility for the current and future supply of electricity, and therefore must fulfill this responsibility by making concerted all-of-Japan efforts to realize new builds. The nuclear industry has been making various efforts to strengthen the nuclear supply chain through the Nuclear Supply Chain Platform, NSCP, launched last March together with the Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry. Maintaining and strengthening the supply chain is a major issue not only in Japan, but around the world. We hope that through today's symposium, we can learn about efforts overseas and leverage that for efforts going forward in Japan. We are also pleased to have students participating today. You have the potential to become future leaders of this industry. Please take advantage of this opportunity, feel the enthusiasm for nuclear energy around the world, and also learn more about the achievements and capabilities of Japan's nuclear power industry and the potential for international business. I would like to conclude my remarks by expressing my hope that today's symposium contributes to strengthening the nuclear supply chain in Japan and deepening collaboration with the broader international nuclear industry and supply chain community. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
ありがとうございます。
Thank you.
それではこれより
I'd like to now move on to the keynote speech. I'd like to now invite the Commissioner Murase of Agency of Natural Resource and Energy, and he will be talking about the trends in nuclear energy policy and nuclear supply chain platform. Commissioner Murase, please. Thank you, and hello to all of you. Thank you for the kind introduction. I am Murase, the Commissioner of ANRE, and I'd like to thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I'm very grateful for the organizers. And Minister Saito has already spoke about the overall tone and the environment, but I would like to supplement him by talking about the supply chain in nuclear and also on the topic of human resources around nuclear power. Now, as was mentioned by the minister, currently, the international energy market is similar to the time when there was an oil crisis. There is tension and also confusion in the Middle East region, but there is a different situation as well. There is a need to decarbonize. So energy security and decarbonization must be achieved at the same time. So we believe that we are at a historical turning point in terms of the global energy supply and demand structure. So we have to achieve both the stable energy supply and decarbonization through green transformation, or GX. And we are making an utmost effort to do this. And the key to green transformation or decarbonization is nuclear power. And we believe that it's a must that we fully utilize nuclear power, given that safety is the prerequisite. In the GX promotion strategy that we have put together last year, we have talked about the promotion of R&D and the building of a strong supply chain through collaboration internationally with like-minded countries. And if you look to the world, the countries are increasingly re-recognizing the need for nuclear power. In December last year, COP28 was held. The outcome document, Global Stocktake, or GST, specifically stated for the first time that the nuclear power is the one of the solutions for global warming. And you would have thought that nuclear power had been mentioned before, but in the international discussion, it was the first time that it was explicitly stated that without nuclear power, it would not be possible to solve these global warming issues. And some said that the renewable energy alone can be the solution, but that is not the case. Without the nuclear power, it will not be possible to solve these global issues. Also in December last year, there was a summit meeting of Asia Zero Emission Community, or AZEC, and in that joint declaration, joint statement, they also talked about the value of nuclear power. So digital transformation and green transformation is ongoing at the same time. And with that, there's a increasing demand for electricity that is expected. So as digital transformation moves forward, the key to achieve a green transformation also is nuclear power. So that's the reason why there's a lot of attention towards nuclear power. So under the circumstances, there is a global recognition about the importance of nuclear supply chain and the development of human resources. In the G7 summit meeting held last May in Hiroshima, the joint statement explicitly indicated that commitment to build strong and resilient nuclear supply chain and the strengthening of nuclear technology and human resources. So we need to respond to these expectations on nuclear power. So we want to collaborate with like-minded countries like US, UK, and France, and also leverage Japan's strong technological foundation to enhance R&D efforts in the supply chain. So if I may talk about what we are doing in Japan. So given the global trends, last year, the government of Japan, expressed clearly the policy towards increased use of nuclear power and strengthening of nuclear infrastructure. As part of the amended Green Transformation and Decarbonization Electricity Act, the amendment to the Atomic Energy Basic Act was also made, and there is now a clear direction towards a development and securing of human resources, and also maintaining and strengthening the necessary industrial infrastructure, as well as a strengthening of the nuclear industry infrastructure as a whole. And as was mentioned by Minister Saito earlier, in Japan, we have the accumulation of technology over half a century or more. So there was an oil crisis about half a century ago, and there was a discussion to diversify the energy sources and also to increase the self-sufficiency rate. And there was a lot of technological development, and we have been able to accumulate that technology. We have been making technologies in the area of a reactor pressure vessel all the way down to a very small valve. And we have been able to maintain the supply chain, but after the 2011 earthquake and tsunami, there has been no reactor construction opportunities in Japan. So unless we take action now, the level of technology base may be on the brink of being lost, and I'm sure you feel the same. So out of this sense of urgency, we established in March of last year the Nuclear Supply Chain Platform. This framework will enable the development and securing of nuclear human resources, and also take measures against supply disruption of parts and materials and business continuation, and also participation in overseas projects. So we intend to provide support in all three of these areas.
The first point is about human resources development. Opportunity to pass on skills and develop personnel are decreasing, particularly for the skilled craft who need hands-on experience. So the ministry, agency, and the industry are coming together, particularly focusing on the manufacturing front, to make sure that we work harder on human resources development. We are looking at what other countries have done, and we are also implementing surveys on the demand for labor and what the supply looks like. And we are looking at how we can fill the gap. We are also working with the manufacturers, suppliers, as well as technical colleges. Second point is about parts obsolescence and supply chain disruptions. There are about 400 nuclear power suppliers located across the country. And since the establishment of the NSCP, the Nuclear Supply Chain Platform, we have been leveraging the network we have with the local Bureau of Economy, Trade and Industry, and conduct on-site visits, etc., to understand the actual situation. Based on that understanding, we are reinforcing and implementing various support measures. For example, we are supporting the construction of next-generation innovative reactors. We are also supporting capital expenditures so that they can expand business elsewhere and outside of Japan as well. We are also looking at the development of the guideline to allow for commercial grade items to be used in the nuclear context. We are also implementing various support measures. We're also providing a directory of such available support measures that can be used by the suppliers. They're also providing seminars and help desks. The third is about international projects. The Japanese domestic industry market alone does not provide enough opportunities. So we believe that this is actually an opportunity for domestic suppliers to look at the international market. So we have formed a team of Japanese companies, and we are sending supplier group missions to countries where there are more specific and advanced plans or projects going on. We have actually done that on 3 occasions to America and Canada. And we will continue such efforts. And we are trying to look at more business opportunities. And we are also trying to support the development of an even more resilient nuclear supply chain. It goes without saying that a strong industrial and human resource base is necessary for the next generation innovative reactors. The GX promotion strategy clearly states the government policy of developing and constructing next generation innovative reactors that incorporate new safety mechanisms so as to improve the safety of nuclear power. With this in mind, we will continue to expand and develop support measures. This is my final slide. This contains a list of companies that have agreed to participate in the platform. 1 year has passed since the establishment, and as of today, about 120 companies have joined. And that means the number of members have more than doubled over the past year. We will continue to utilize this framework to implement policies to maintain and strengthen the nuclear industrial base. I'd like to conclude my presentation by expressing my hope that more of you will participate and or continue your participation and utilize this platform. As we heard from Mr. Mimura earlier, this year we are to revise the strategic energy plan, and I would do my best to make sure that that helps in this direction. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much.
ではこれより
I'd like to now move on to session 1, the future vision of the nuclear industry. And there will be 3 presentations in this session. First, I'd like to invite Professor Akira Yamaguchi of University of Tokyo to talk about the future of the next generation advanced reactors. Professor Yamaguchi, please. Good afternoon to all of you. As was just introduced, my name is Yamaguchi. I am also the head of I used to be the chair of the subcommittee of nuclear energy, and as Commissioner Murase was talking about, I was engaged in this policy discussion, and the Director General Grossi had stated that we are in a new moment, a new page has been turned, and we are going to open the door and we're going to move forward. And what I would like to say today is about the future vision of nuclear reactors. So after we open the door, what is the path that we have in front of us, and what should the path look like? That is the context in which I would like to talk about today. So the sustainable use of nuclear power, and also to activate the supply chain and the nuclear human resources. That is very important, and I believe that there are 4 areas: motivation, the appeal, the future viability, and the feasibility. So what is the motivation for sustainable use of nuclear power? Green transformation and the basic policy for green transformation has been put forth, and we have to have both a stable supply of energy and decarbonization. So Japan government has come up with a nationally determined contribution, so we have to achieve that. As for the appeal, there was an amendment to the Basic Act on Atomic Energy, And it also talks about the securing of energy resources, prevention of global warming, and also advancement in academia and promotion of industry. As for the future viability, there is a need to take on a challenge for the advanced reactors. We have to establish a nuclear fuel cycle and also have to enhance safety using innovative technology in a significant manner. And finally, the feasibility. So if you are to implement these technologies, we would have to first look at the technical feasibility, but not only that, we have to also look at the feasibility of the structure and organization to enable that, and also the topic today, the strengthening of supply chain and human resource. Those are the elements that is needed. So what is the motivation to use nuclear power? In the green transformation basic policy discussion, the recognition we have is, first of all, the incumbent energy crisis, as well as the delay in energy policies. And we have to solve these two problems. So there are four key issues, but there are four policies for the nuclear power utilization. One is to make efforts for restart of existing reactors and also to maximize the use of reactors, and also develop and construct next generation advanced reactors, and also to accelerate the back-end process. Now, NDC, the nationally determined contribution, as you know, is related to the goal of carbon neutrality by 2050. And we want to maximally use nuclear power to achieve this carbon neutrality, and that is a motivation. So the relationship between nuclear power and the green transformation has been spelled out in the basic policy for green transformation, the Promotion Act for green transformation, the GX Decarbonization Electricity Act, and the Code of Conduct. Commissioner Murase has talked about this already, but we have all these motivations. Now, what is the appeal of nuclear power? Let me then go on to talk about that. As was mentioned, the Atomic Energy Basic Act is now amended, and as you see here, Article 1 in the purpose, it does talk about the prevention of global warming. It's now explicitly mentioned, which is very significant and very meaningful. And also another point that we should not forget is that in the basic policy, there's a safety first. The philosophy of safety first is now also included. So for ensuring safety, we have to make utmost effort. And that understanding is included in this act. And also, nuclear power can be used in various ways. And so having safety as a prerequisite, there are some characteristics of a nuclear power. So how much fuel is needed, and also how much CO2 emission is involved in power generation. So if you compare nuclear power, gas, oil, and coal, you can see that the performance of nuclear power is much better in terms of performance by far. But then there are many things that we have to address as challenges. So does nuclear industry have a future potential? So you can see here the land use intensity on the horizontal axis, and the vertical axis is the greenhouse gas emissions. And the green line here at the top, this is the amount of CO2 that is being emitted as a result of power generation. So it's way at the top. The natural gas mark is there. So everything, the CO2 emission is much as equal to the amount that we would emit by generating power from natural gas. But if you look at nuclear power, you're able to reduce the emissions by maybe 1 or 2 orders of magnitude. And if you look at the red line, this is the footprint in terms of land, like wind power and other sources of energy. You have to build windmills everywhere in Japan. But in terms of land use efficiency, it's much more advantageous in the case of nuclear power, as you can see. And if you look at it from a long-term perspective, the usage efficiency of fuel. 1 ton of natural uranium, how much energy can be extracted? So in a once-through method, in the light water reactor and dispose of fuel. If you use it once, it would generate 1.7 gigawatt with 1 ton of natural uranium. But if you use a pluthermal, a max fuel usage, it will be 2.5 gigawatts. And if you use a fast reactor with 32 gigawatts, and the efficiency will be increased by 100 times if you use an infinite number of cycles with the fast reactors. So this is a graphic representation of what I just said. So there is this once-through type of power generation. Now, in Japan, this pluthermal method is taken in the green circle here. So if you have next-generation advanced reactors added here, that efficiency is going to be much higher, and the two rings would be connected. So having said that, what would be the feasibility of the sustainable use of nuclear power? So the value that the nuclear power should be achieving are threefold. I've talked about that already. And based on that, there are policies, 4 pillars that have been set forth for the use of nuclear power. In the Code of Conduct of Nuclear Power, there was a point about the strengthening of supply chain as well as the contribution to the solution of international challenges. And I'm quoting from OECD here, but on the far left, it talks about nuclear technology, and we have a solid base for nuclear technology, and we are still engaged in the R&D. On the far right, this is the market for nuclear. There's a lot of expectation for nuclear power. So the nuclear technology and the market are both already available. It's maturing. However, in order to achieve that and implement that, we need the enabling conditions, which is indicated in the middle. So we have to focus our energy in this enabling conditions. So policies, regulations are included here, and supply chain, human resources are very crucial elements of the enabling conditions. So if I may summarize, first, we do have the full motivation to use nuclear power, and I think there is a sufficient appeal for nuclear power. We have committed to safety. So based on that, we think there's a lot of attractive points about nuclear power. And as for the future of nuclear industry, we have the mandate for decarbonization and also to reduce emissions. So I think there is a future for nuclear power industry. So what we need to do now is to really understand the appeal and the value of nuclear power, and also to link the technology and the market, which are the enabling conditions, which is supply chain. So through international collaboration, we will be able to come up with good ideas about how we can achieve these enabling conditions. I'm looking forward to the discussion today. Thank you for your attention.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Next, we'd like to invite from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries, Mr. Akihiko Kato, the head of the nuclear segment, executive officer, talking about advanced lightweight reactor development. Now, Mr. Kato, please. I am Kato from Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. So Mr. Grossi and Mr. Murase and Professor Yamaguchi are talking about sustainable nuclear energy, and advanced reactors has been the keyword in this all initiative. And as a representative of the industry, I would like to share with you our initiatives of advanced reactors at our company. First, our business areas of Mitsubishi Heavy Industries. On the left, you see the nuclear fuel cycle. The light water reactor is on the top, and this is also shown by the previous speaker. And then you have a fast reactor fuel cycle at the bottom, and we are doing design, construction, and maintenance, and fuel fabrication, waste treatment, and reprocessing plant construction, and MOX fuel fabrication plant construction, and the key one for fast reactors, the fast reactor itself, manufacturing. So we have been responsible for all kinds of, mostly all areas of the nuclear industry in Japan. And as Mr. Murase and others have said, well, these are the trends of nuclear industry inside and outside of Japan. Energy security and resource price soaring. Based on these trends, all of the countries in the world are now geared up for more use of nuclear energy for the past few years. And as was said at COP28, ahead of 2050, the installed capacity has to be tripled. And that's what was said. And in Japan, the restart of the plants and also advanced reactors development and commercialization, nuclear fuel cycle, and long-term operation have been promoted so that we can sustainably use the nuclear energy in the future. And in overseas, in the EU taxonomy, nuclear has been recognized as one of the green technologies. And France, UK, and the Netherlands are now planning to have 30 new plants. And so this is the trends or the initiative. So the nuclear power is a carbon-free, large-scale, stable power source, and it is going to have an important role to play in Japan. But on the other hand, the trust level has been deteriorated because of Fukushima. And so we have to recognize that, and we have to make sure that plants will be restarted. And by realizing safe and secure operation, we can enhance the trust in nuclear and then establish nuclear fuel cycle. And afterwards, as a representative advanced reactor, we are promoting SRZ 1200 together with 4 PWR utilities in Japan. And we are hoping that this will be commercialized in the mid-2030s. And in the midterm, in response to various social needs, fast reactors and high-temperature gas reactors will be developed. And then ultimately, we'd like to take challenge on the development of nuclear fusion reactors, which is dream energy. And then let's take a look at the SRZ 1200, which is Advanced Light Water Reactor. And SRZ is the phrase. The slogans are on the right: super safe and secure, and large-scale stable supply of electricity. And you see what SRZ stands for on the right bottom. And this plant uses proven technologies. And based on that, as you can see on the left, advanced safe technology will be provided, and there will be an enhanced level of safety. And we are working for compliance with the existing rules of light water reactor. And based on this experience and knowledge and insight, in the future, we'd like to come up with the development of a small light water reactor, which is distributed type of resources. And now, this is the status of development for the moment. We're working with 4 PWR utilities in Japan, as I said, and with regard to standard development design, we have almost complete with the basic design, and we're going through demonstration projects. And once we identify individual plants, then we will apply for installation licensing, and then we would like to start the construction in late 2020s, and then start commercial operation in mid-2030. And the supply chain has to be there to support that. And as you can see in the pyramid on the left bottom, under the 3 plant manufacturers, there are nuclear technology specific vendors, and then there is general industry companies underneath. So by combining all of these technologies and expertise, we are going to construct plants. So in the West, there is only Japan that has this good, excellent supply chain for nuclear industry. So we have developed our technologies and nurtured our technologies for the past 50 years, and we have to maintain that so that we can construct a new plant. So we have to have a good dialogue with supply chain players to look at the new plant construction. And now, I'd like to talk about other types of advanced reactors. First, the fast reactors. As for the fast reactors, because we are quite scarce in terms of natural resources, this is going to be quite effective because we can make effective use of resources, as Professor Yamaguchi said. And on the right, we can reduce the volume of waste, and also we can reduce the harm of the waste before the final disposal by reducing the volume, and also by reducing the concentration, and we can reduce the harm, and that has been reported in Nikkei as well. And on the left, you see the processes during 2040s. We're hoping to achieve this, and that is the target that we're developing this to now. And close to 120 billion yen has been subsidized, and we are working with the US and France by picking up whatever is necessary from them so that we can be successful in development. In 2023, we are designated as a core company in this initiative in Japan. And now, the fast or the high-temperature gas reactor. The local production and local consumption is the perspective to produce hydrogen by making best use of high temperature in this gas reactor to produce a large volume of hydrogen. On the left, you see a simple mechanism to produce hydrogen. And on the right, you see the development timeline. In early 2040s, we are hoping to construct demonstration plant, and in FTTR, the hydrogen demonstration project is incorporated, and by doing so, we'd like to be effective. And close to 130 billion yen budget has been provided for this whole project, so we'd like to make best use of that fund to do the development. And we are playing as a core company in this initiative as well. And for fast reactors and high-temperature gas reactors and advanced light water reactors, we are going to engage in various technological development. So test loop and high-temperature specific valve that you see on the right. In order to ensure the proper development of these technologies, the suppliers' support is essential. So we have to keep a good dialogue with suppliers to proceed with this development. Now, to change the gear slightly, for a new challenge for a new type of reactors, and that is about microreactors. And the water cooling or gas cooling, those concepts are now gone. So we would use just thermal conductivity to take out the heat to generate power. So totally new concept. So you cannot create a large capacity reactor, but 100 megawatts or 10 megawatts or 20 megawatts type of plant can be built in remote islands and disaster hit areas. And in terms of size, this can be accommodated in a trailer truck type of vehicle. So this is the total lineup of what I said, what we are engaged in right now. So roughly speaking, this is the timeline that we are going to proceed with the development of reactors. The first and foremost, SRZ 2030s and fast reactor 2030s, and a little bit later in high temperature gas reactor. And there is a lot of things that are written here as a summary. But if you look at various perspectives, the large-scale stable power source, which is carbon-free, which is the biggest characteristic of nuclear power. So we have to take a best use of this because we are scarce in resources. And volume reduction before final disposal, from that perspective, it is quite effective technology. So in order to develop all these technologies, we have to combine the all expertise of supply chains players in Japan. And there are many supply chain players that have great expertise, and we have to maintain that. And with collaboration with all these players, we are hoping to be successful in development of those reactors. That's all. Thank you for your attention.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Now, the last but not least, the CEO of GIFEN, Mr. Olivier Bard, is talking about French nuclear industry. Now, Mr. Bard, the floor is yours.
Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for having me. So my name is Olivier Bard. I'm the CEO of the French Nuclear Industry Association. And I will make a short presentation of what we have been doing for the past couple of years in France in the nuclear industry. So just as a reminder, we have a comprehensive nuclear industry in France that includes 56 reactors under operation now. And some of them, it's written here, are post-operation. One is at the edge of being commissioned. The first EPR in France is in the final test phase. And that those reactors generate about 2/3 of the electricity in France. And you have the figures about the industry, several hundreds of core companies and probably a larger base of companies that are involved in the industry, but not as much specialized as it was said earlier. What is quite specific about the period is we are really changing phases right now in France with nuclear energy. The facilities I've mentioned earlier were built in the 80s and the 90s, in the phase that I mentioned here as the focus on new builds. Of course, that phase benefited from the decades earlier, almost 25 years of exploration of how to use nuclear. But the big effort was made in the 70s, 80s, 90s on building that infrastructure. And since then, basically since I started my career, we have been in a situation where we would operate that infrastructure, not necessarily build it and not really looking at renewing it. But this has changed. A few years ago, in France, we were looking at reducing the share of nuclear energy in the electricity mix. But now, given the challenges that were reminded to us by Mr. Grossi earlier, the order placed by society and by the government has changed. And now it's up to us to do as much nuclear as we can, as a complementary, by the way, of doing as much as we can of energy savings, energy efficiency, development of renewables. All that combined are the tools that we need to face our challenges. So with this new order of having as much nuclear as possible, the program is really ramping up now. And we have been in the past 2, 3, 4 years in the situation of getting ready and making it possible for a decision to be made about restarting a more ambitious program that is based on, of course, making the best of the infrastructure we have as long as we can. That's the LTO of reactors, but also fuel cycle facilities. And it's also a matter of restarting new builds after 25 years of very seldom projects, I would say. So this is where we are. And at the same time, we are looking at new solutions based on SMRs, advanced modular reactors, which are likely or might bring some additional solutions to the technology that we already have. What was interesting in the process is that the big question, I would say the political, the societal question, moved from, do we really need this, very quickly to, are we able to do it? And there's a phasing between those two questions. As early as the question, is it necessary, starts to have a yes answer, then we need to answer whether we are able to do it. And that's up to the industry to prove that we can mobilize to deliver on those expectations. So, as I said, I had the Nuclear Industry Association that was established 5 years ago. It's quite recent association, but it is part of that movement. We realized that we needed all the industry together in a common organization in order to get ready. And that includes all the pyramids that Commissioner Murase showed earlier, from the top GENCO to the very bottom non-specialized providers of pieces of equipment or services. And we decided to have one organization with all those companies to work together as a team and to interface with counterparts together as a team. So here are the different counterparts that we have. It's cross-industry. There's a lot to learn and a lot to share with other industries and, of course, other nuclear industries in the world, like we are doing today, for instance. And there's a strong interaction with government, as you might guess. So I wanted to make a small focus on what we call the MATCH program. The MATCH program was started 3 years ago, and the main question to answer is, are we able to do it? What does it take to be able to do it? So it's basically a capability building tool. And the process that you see here on the screen shows that we start from the program. What do we have on our plate? What is the workload? How to translate that into a workload forecast of needed resources in order to measure as well as possible the gap to fill. So there are two benefits to that program that we have been leading. First is we make companies work together. We work in groups to share experience and to share the forecast, to translate a market forecast into a workload forecast based on those companies that actually do the job, and they know how many engineers from what types are needed to do this or that. So there's a strong effort to have a very specific forecast. So the program that is the basis of this exercise is here on the left. So of course, given the infrastructure we have, we already had a quite high workload, but we are facing a ramp up due to new builds mainly. And on the right side, you have, sorry, it's in French, I don't have the translation, but those are the 20 different segments of activities, groups of companies, I would say, depending on their specialties, that we make work together in order to deliver on that. The result is here. We are facing roughly a 25% increase of workload meaning we will need 25% more workforce, just to focus on workforce. We do the same with the investment into the industry tools. And this is workforce, meaning we have to recruit earlier than that in order to train people and to let them gain experience in order to be fully efficient at their jobs. And what is interesting here, I don't have the figures in detail here, but it's mostly the ramp up is mostly in the supply chain, more in the supply chain than at the GENCO's level. So the problem that we have in terms of attractivity, in terms of recruitment, in terms of training, experience gaining, is not only at the GENCO level, but also at the suppliers level. And of course, you can imagine that it's easier to recruit and to attract when you're at the top of the pyramid than when you're a very small company at the bottom. This is why we need to work as a group and we need to attract as an industry. We derive, and this is my final, very good because it's my final slide. Should be okay. So what is very interesting in this is not to measure the gap, is to know what the actions are to fill the gap. And we will, it was mentioned earlier, we will revise our match exercise on a yearly basis to see how we are progressing towards making the figures match between we have structured several actions in order to drive that fill the gap plan, I would say. 3 families, and I will not go into details. One family is we need more resources. This is natural to everybody. We need more resources. But the thing is, at the same time, we also need to make sure that we are efficient, because if you put too many resources in an inefficient system, it just gets worse. So those are very complementary. Working on operational excellence, working on the implementation of safety culture, on all those stuff here is very complementary to attract young people. What is interesting about attracting people to the nuclear industry is now the problem is not nuclear, it's industry. We need to attract people to the industry, more generally speaking. That being nuclear is not a problem. When people come to industry, they are very likely to come nuclear rather than oil and gas or other industries that do not concur or do not contribute as much as us to the challenges. But the point is to make people come to technical jobs and to go to scientific training courses. And the last column here is about making sure that our industry remains sustainable, that companies are healthy, not to mention wealthy, in order to be able to attract, in order to be able to invest, to recruit, and to work efficiently together. So this is basically what we have structured our actions on, our own actions based on ourselves. And I put at the bottom of this slide the fact that being a self-reliant industry doesn't mean we are closed. It means we are stronger to be open to partners, to friends, to more resources, to opportunities to create synergies with other industries or with other nuclear industries based on peer partnerships. And this is what we try to develop. Thank you very much for your attention.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much, Mr. Bard. This brings us to the end of session 1, the future.
これよりパネルセッション 2A
We will begin panel session 2A, efforts to strengthen the supply chain, human resources development, and security. We will look at efforts made by different parties. And this session will be facilitated by Ms. Hiroko Kondo from Matrix K. Ms. Kondo, the floor is yours. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Hiroko Kondo from Matrix K. We would like to look at what industry efforts are underway with regard to human resources development and securing. I'd like to first invite each panelist to introduce what they are doing. Let us begin with Mr. Masaki Kawai, a senior researcher at the Mitsubishi Research Institute, and Mr. Hidetaka Masumura, the head of sales and member of the board at TVE. They will be delivering a joint presentation. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. So I am from MRI. My name is Kawai, and I'm jointly delivering a presentation with Mr. Masumura of TVE, and I'd like to talk about a specific project that we are commissioned to run from the Agency of Natural Resources and Energy. So this is a similar slide you've shown. This is the government's new strategy that came out last year. And so there's a focus on manufacturing and particularly the skilled craft. And there is a fear of a shortage of the necessary human resources there. For example, in other countries, in France, they are supporting the technology transfer in the companies, and they are also supporting reskilling of the workforce. And they're also teaming with the vocational training institutions and pairing them with businesses to support the training of new skilled workers. And so we are actually looking at a two-pronged approach for the training programs. So one is working with the vocational schools. We have vocational schools located in each prefecture in Japan, and we want them to be a part of the training. And we add the part that is nuclear specific, and there we are encouraging or engaging colleges, technical colleges, and businesses to offer training at the vocational schools. The other part is working with the vendors, suppliers, and ask them to share the training programs they have in-house to people outside. For the second part, I would actually invite my friend from TVE to discuss that. So I'd like to focus what we're doing with the vocational schools. So this year we only have one actual project going on. We are working with the Fukui vocational school in Fukui Prefecture, and this is allowing hands-on experience to their students for about welding, and there's also training, classroom training offered for welding, and we conducted a survey among the participants. So in a nutshell, the response is very good. And so we have some comments listed towards the bottom side of the slide that one says that they were able to gain the knowledge and the skills for welding, and another says that they would like to see this happen again next year. And so generally the response was very positive. So going forward, we would like to expand our scope. This time it was on welding, but we would like to cover other types of skills as well, and we would also like to expand the geographical coverage as well, so that we can extend this nationwide. So let me give the floor to my friend from TVE. This is Masumura from TVE. So we would like to talk about what training we offered. So what we did, we had this in-house program, and we train our workforce in various ways. So we had the training materials already available. So this time we revised them to update them to incorporate the latest knowledge about the valves used in the nuclear setting. We are also providing cast iron items, and we also developed this new textbook that looks at the testing and inspection of such components. In addition, we are also receiving a subsidy from the government program and for the digital process, which is used to create foam molds for the valves used in the nuclear setting. And we are using that type of valve and molding for the training program. So we use the NSCP and the mailing list to announce the availability of the program so that the related manufacturers and suppliers are aware that we are organizing this program. So this year in January, over 2 days, we had this session at our headquarters in Amagasaki, which is in the western part of Japan. So we show what training we offered. So on the day one, we looked at the sizing of the valves and motor-operated valves and the applicable regulatory framework. And then on day two, we looked at JASMI standard and how you would design the valves. And we also had some hands-on training as well on the testing. And then from the 30th of January to the 1st of February, we had a 3-day program at one of our works in Mie Prefecture. And again, this was about cast steel items. So we began with how you would design. And then from day two, we focused on inspections. So on day two, this was about development of the mill sheet, the material testing results report. And then on day three, we focused on NDE, MT, VT, RT, and how you would report the results and the findings, or the pass or fail, etc. And so we also conducted a survey among the participants. And you can see some comments here. Basically, the satisfaction level was very high. And in the box, we have some specific comments. And for nuclear, particularly, we focused on the standards and the codes, and that was highly appreciated. So our observations from those who actually conducted the training, well, this time we actually used a valve that we are manufacturing and developing. So there were a lot of questions from our fellow valve manufacturer participants. And so it was a very engaged session. And I think we were able to contribute to the overall understanding level across the industry peers. And another part focused on the mill sheet. The mill sheets are very important, particularly for cast steel. And this allowed the participants to get the basics of that. On the other hand, with regard to radiographic testing, it appears to have been a little challenging, and so we probably would want to be more careful about the competency level of the participants going forward. And with regard to the challenges going forward, so we would maybe want to go into a more in-depth valve design training for nuclear use, and that might actually become more sensitive as it may infringe into our intellectual property. So we might want to be more careful. But then we hope that what we did this year can be provided regularly, and that could also provide an opportunity for the suppliers to have exchange with each other, and that could help develop the human resources base for the wider industry, and we believe that can be our contribution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for these two presentations. Next, I would like to invite Mr. Masahito Yoshimura from Nuclear Human Resource Network. He's the head of a strategy working group. Mr. Yoshimura, please. Thank you very much. I am heading the strategy working group at the Nuclear Human Resource Network. So we were established in 2010, and this is a collaboration of a private and the public sector entities. And in 2019, we have established a strategy working group to set strategic direction for our organization. As part of our activities, we have put together a strategic roadmap. So we developed this in 2014, and at that time, there was concern about the shortage of human resources in the nuclear industry, and we were looking at 10 years ahead and tried to organize our challenges at that time. But then 10 years later, there have been changes in the situation. So now we are looking at another 10 years ahead and putting together another version of a strategic roadmap. So now what are we talking about when we say human resources in the nuclear industry? So there are people in the industry, people in the college, there are research institutions, and those people who are in the nuclear field generally. Those are people who are in the nuclear industry, primarily in power generation, but there are other people like isotopes, radiation, agriculture, these industries that apply nuclear or radiation technology, but then there are supporting industries like R&D. It may not be limited to energy, but there may be research related to radiation or nuclear. And also there are people who are in the educational field who are involved in this industry. And also there are students who already have interest in nuclear and are already being educated on these related areas. So those are the people who are included when we define nuclear human resources. And in Japan, we have these resources, but outside of Japan, there are also people who also fall under this category. So we are looking at all of these people when we are talking about the developing human resources in this area. So what are the measures to be taken? So in the nuclear human resource, there are people who are in the industry. And when we put together this roadmap, we limited to the industry as energy related industry. That was the focus. So the application area was not included in the scope. And below that, there are the R&D human resources. So we need to develop those people who are engaged in R&D. And then below that, you can see that there are people who are engaged in education, those people who are teaching and students. So we need to develop an environment conducive to fostering people in the nuclear industry. And also there are people in Japan, but then there are people who are also interfacing with the overseas industries, and also there may be an opportunity to support human resource development in nuclear overseas. So we are covering both Japan and overseas. And it's not just developing. We have to acquire people in the nuclear field. So we may want to acquire people from other areas or students who are in other who are interested in other areas, and appeal to them the attractiveness of nuclear power. And also we have to gain trust in this area. So we also need to engage in activities to gain trust. So there are basically 5 areas to take measures to foster people in this area. Now, when we say HR development, we have an objective. So we have to have a deadline as well as objective and target. And then try to develop a path towards that goal. So it has to be feasible, otherwise it will not be a viable plan. So how are we going to set our future vision? There are 7 categories here. So when we say nuclear industry, it can be very diverse. So we have broken down the industry into some areas. The revitalization of Fukushima, and also the sustainable use of the nuclear power, like restart and maintenance and operations and so on. And then the third area is a nuclear fuel cycle and rad waste disposal. So we're looking at 10 years ahead in these areas. And similarly in R&D, education, international contribution, and also the increased awareness in the society on nuclear. We also set categories there, and then we set a vision for 10 years from now, and then we identify the issues, and then we have try to indicate which countermeasures can be taken to address these issues. And I'm not going to get into the details today, but there are issues that have been identified, for example, for acquisition of human resource and also to increase awareness in the society on nuclear. We need to understand the current level of awareness. Then we have to engage in activities to gain trust by the general public. And also in the industry, we have technology map that we have developed to understand the current situation. Also, we need to retain people in the industry and also to maintain the technology levels. So we would also have to activate the industries and some niche industries, and also supply chain, and also the R&D and the demonstration of technologies would also have to be supported. And then we have to foster human resources in some of the critical areas. And for R&D, the environment and the structure would have to be developed. For education, we have to develop an environment conducive to environment, and also international contribution. We have to foster internationally oriented human resources, and also increase competencies for contributing to the international community. So we have categorized into these different areas. And as we work, we find that there are things that we have been able to do, but some we have not been able to achieve yet. So there are some focus areas that we have identified and recommended 7 areas. Number 1 is the public relations activities. That is to communicate the appeals and the positive aspects of nuclear power. In the industry, we would have to be mindful of the liquidity of the human resources and try to foster human resources, bearing that in mind. And also, we have to look at DE and I in this industry as well. For R&D, we have to also be mindful of the international competitiveness of our R&D competencies. For education area, as Dr. Kurosaki will speak about, there will be activities necessary to establish a good education platform and the international community. International contribution. There is a lot of international activities, so we would have to be more global and also to be able to contribute to countries that are newly introducing nuclear power. So those are the areas that we want to address in our organization in line with the government policies, so that we will make this a meaningful activity. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. Next is from Toshiba Energy Systems, from Power System Division, Manager Ms. Yuki Komukai. Over to you. Thank you. I am from Toshiba Energy Systems. I am Komukai. It's going to be a very brief presentation, but I'd like to talk about engineer training and education at Toshiba Energy Systems. This is the contents, table of contents here. First, on the nuclear business of Toshiba Energy Systems. In Toshiba Energy Systems, we are the energy company which was spun out from Toshiba in 2017. So energy production, transmit, and store, and wisely use as a total solution. And we are contributing to society with technical expertise. And in Kawasaki of Kanagawa Prefecture, we are headquartered. And then there is Isogo Engineering Center in Yokohama, research center and factories, and also group companies in and outside of Japan, and IHI and other cooperating companies are supporting us. And it's not just nuclear, but various backgrounds are supporting our personnel in their own fields. In nuclear business, we are covering construction, maintenance, and commissioning of Fukushima Daiichi nuclear fuel cycle, new reactors, and nuclear fusion technology,
and we take advantage of nuclear technology for superconductivity and heavy particle therapy. And so, as a company that is engaged in nuclear industry, we are taking lessons from Fukushima Daiichi accident to nurture nuclear safety culture, and we are engaged in the enhancement of continuous enhancement of safety in nuclear. And we are also aggressively developing advanced reactors that has higher safety based on ABW that has been a proven technology. We're seeking further safety, IVR, that is advanced light reactors. But we're also working on small fast reactors and high temperature gas reactors. So with we are trying to recruit students that have the passion about this contribution. Now let me talk about the engineer education at our company. So what is the engineering at plant manufacturers? So starting from R&D, conceptual design and detailed design for manufacturing, and installation of equipment, delivery of products, and commissioning, and maintenance and operation. There are various jobs. So nuclear engineering is necessary, but mechanical, material, electric, information, chemical, physical, and construction backgrounds are necessary for engineers. So how are we developing engineers from various backgrounds to become nuclear engineers? So this is the training system of our company. On the left, you see Toshiba Group as a whole for human resource development. So they have to acquire the broad basic knowledge and skill as a career person. And then there is our specific training, including nuclear safety culture, specialized training, and manufacturing education as a plant manufacturer, and also global education to develop people who can work as a person as a global company. So we are hoping to develop engineers with high specialization and expertise. Now, as for nuclear safety culture development, of course, nuclear safety culture may not be so familiar to all of you who are students, but the safety has to come first, and that is the basic precondition, and we have to make sure that has taken root as a culture, and that's our responsibility. So engineers' ethics and compliance have to be learned through lectures and e-learning, and also we are providing actual danger and hazard experience, practical training and lessons learned sessions, and also message transmission from top management. So we are continuously reminding personnel of the safety. Next one is engineers education, basic education for the first 3 years after joining the company. So on-the-job training and classroom training, and also through the presentations of the results of the research, they are also learning from others, and there are 50 different courses. And also you can study the basic concept of nuclear power, so anybody can acquire basic knowledge through this. And then after 3-year basic training, there will be more specialized training to develop professionals. And it's not just a learning technology. You actually make presentations as a result of the research, so that you can have more exchange between different personnel, and also you can experience the processes of other fields, so that you can have broader knowledge, and the perspectives that are expected of top management team members is also given. So we are hoping to develop people who are professionals with a broad range of perspectives. Now, the manufacturing education is specific for us as a plant manufacturer. So you have to have deeper understanding about manufacturing. There's a BWR Operation Training Center where you can practically use a simulator, and also you can dispatch to nuclear plant site or thermal and hydro power sites to broaden your perspective. And there's also plant manufacturing sites. So there is a program for people to acquire the art of manufacturing as a crafts personnel. And then the global training is the other one. We are focusing on developing people who can globally compete. So there's overseas practical training and overseas study training, or IAEA international training, and paper presentation at the International Academic Society Congress, so that they can have more exchanges with engineers from around the world to improve their skills. And this is a bit different in nature, but we are deepening our collaboration with suppliers so that we can enhance the quality of the total industry. In January this year, our procurement and quality assurance hosted the briefing to suppliers. So we talked about our business policies and the preventive measures based on the quality troubles that are experienced recently. And about slightly less than 200 participated in this briefing to discuss the quality improvement for the whole industry. Now, for people and Earth and tomorrow, this is Toshiba's corporate policy. So we will ensure the transfer of technology through engineer education rooted in nuclear safety culture, develop and secure nuclear human resources, and maintain and strengthen our supply chain, and working with the METI and other entities. And then through the deepening our technology and research and development for the future, we will continue to contribute to carbon neutrality and stable energy supply. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would now like to invite Professor Ken Kurosaki of Kyoto University. Professor Kurosaki chairs the METI Working Group on Innovative Reactors. Good afternoon, this is Kurosaki. I'd like to talk about ANEC, the Advanced Nuclear Education Consortium for the Future Society. So this is my bio. I started nuclear engineering when I joined university. I studied at the Osaka University, and my expertise is in fuel engineering. And so I would like to first say that the nuclear human resources development is in a negative spiral. There are so many reasons, and fewer students are studying nuclear engineering. So the universities and colleges would reorganize and try to rename, and maybe temporarily there would be an increase, but then the overall decline continues. And then the single institution is no longer able to provide the systematic and comprehensive nuclear engineering. And then the students won't come, and there's this negative spiral, and this is a big problem. So the Ministry of Education and Culture, Science and Technology is actually trying to get out of that, and they started this International Nuclear Human Resources Development Initiative, and that has actually a long history, or more than 10 years. But in 2020, there was a revamping, and so there's a focus on providing comprehensive and integrated training for nuclear human resources. And so this is about forming a consortium, and the program director and program officers were nominated. And this is a 7-year program. And that consortium is named ANEC. And so the ANEC has a very long name, so as you can see on the slide. And so the core institution are the universities. And so most of the colleges and the universities in Japan, as well as the industry and research institutions, are part of this consortium. There are 55, actually. The slide says 51, but there are actually 55 institutions represented. This is a website, so later you might want to look at this. Maybe you can search with ANEC and nuclear, and you would get this. And there's a lot of information. We have some training materials. We also have comments from the students who actually enrolled in the course, and I'm sure it would be very interesting to you. And so this is an organizational structure that we run ANIC on. So we have the general meeting and planning meetings and different groups looking at different aspects of the program. Specific activities, there are 5. One is to develop the curriculum, which is very systematic and advanced, and this should be provided in an open manner. The second is about utilizing the institutions that have large experiment facilities. For example, Kyoto University has the research reactor, and also opportunities for international training. And the fourth point is about collaboration with the industry and other related areas. And the fifth is to make sure that this consortium is managed in a sustainable manner, and therefore has long-term duration. And so this is not just about college. Well, I mean, the focus is college students and the people who are teaching, but we actually try to expand scope, and we are actually trying to engage high schoolers. So last year we had a program at Kinki University. This year we are running a program at Tokyo Tech. We are also trying to enhance collaboration with industry. I think we have a very good program, and it's very important that we keep this program sustained. And that sustainability or viability is very important. So we are trying to rack our brains and come up with various ideas. And one focus is on collaboration with the industry. When you think about human resources development, there are a lot of government agencies, and they are not always consolidated or coordinated. And so I think it's important that we do have a comprehensive, integrated system. We also need to be very aware and responsive to the actual needs of the industry. And we also need visibility, that students think we can learn here and get such a career. That visibility is very important. We also need to have a future where the people who study through this program actually do take forefront jobs and be prominently featured, although that would take time. So to make sure we can attract good human resources, we need to understand how many we actually need, how many people we actually need. That will depend on the energy mix, the understanding or consensus that nuclear is necessary for Japan. We also have to think about the aging of the society, the declining birth rate, DX, digital transformation, etc. And those are very important factors to look at how many people we would need in the nuclear field. Another is to make sure that the younger generation understands what's good and attractive about nuclear. I will work harder on this. And then the question would be, what are other industries doing? Every industry wants the best, the cream of the people. And so IT, for example, sustainability, those are the popular fields now. So we are monitoring what those industries are doing and try to reflect the lessons learned on what we do. Thank you very much.
ありがとうございました。
Thank you very much. Okay, now, based on what we heard in the presentations, I would like to hear from the members on our panel. Now, as panelists from Tokyo Energy Systems and Solutions, Mr. Sho Hasegawa, who just joined the company in 2023, and Ms. Michiko Takekura, the Deputy Director at the MEXT in the Nuclear Division, and also Mr. Hara from ANRE, the Deputy Director of Nuclear Energy Policy Planning Division. So first of all, I'd like to ask you about the attractiveness of a nuclear field from the academia. And there are many students who are participating today, and you have looked at this industry, and I think you are trying to imagine that you are working in this industry yourself. So I have a question to you, Hasegawa-san, from Tokyo Energy Systems and Solutions. So you are now in the nuclear industry, but in your student days, what was the reason why you decided to work in this industry? Thank you. My name is Hasegawa from Toshiba Energy Systems. I was majoring in engineering, nuclear engineering in college. I was doing some studies on piping and the pressure vessels. So what we were doing was we had these smaller scale testing specimen of piping and pressure vessels, and we had been doing like vibration tests and so on and analysis. And as we proceeded with the research, I became interested in how the research work is actually applied in the plant, and also how the actual plants are being designed and manufactured. So I became interested in the manufacturing process, and also the energy stable supply and also decarbonization are major issues in the society, and nuclear power is deemed to be a solution to that. It's not an easy solution, but I thought that I would be able to take on the challenge and also be able to contribute to the society. And I thought that there would be a lot of appeal for me in working in the nuclear industry. So that is the reason why I decided to join a nuclear plant vendor. And I was engaged in a support activity to restart Onagawa Unit Number 2 after I joined the company. And I'm also engaged now in the designing activities of pumps and heat exchangers for new build. So I believe that what I'm doing now can contribute to society, and so I'm very much motivated on my day-to-day activities. And I'm looking forward to the day when my work would lead to a restart of a plant and that can contribute to the society. Thank you very much. Next, I would like to ask Professor Kurosaki. So in your presentation earlier, you were talking about the shortage of people, which is also the same in other industries. And it was necessary to communicate the appeal and the value of the nuclear industry. What are the appeals and the values of this industry? Thank you. Before I talk about that, in the general public, what is the image that people have on nuclear power or our industry? We need to understand that first. And the Japan Gyro organization did a survey, and there were more negatives than positives as a result of this survey among the general public. And in negative response, they said that this is dangerous, it's too complicated, I'm worried, and cannot be trusted. Okay, about the positive responses, they said it's meaningful, it is necessary. Those are the only two reasons. So that's generally the image that people have on nuclear industry. And I'm sure you have your views about that. But in order to attract people, I think the result of this survey can be very resourceful. Number one, one of the negative aspects was not trustable, which is very fatal. So I think we do need to regain trust among the general public and foster that trust. And what we need to do is to make sure that we ensure safety so that people have peace of mind, and that would lead to trust. Number two, among the people who had positive views, necessary and also meaningful. But those are the only two reasons, and I think there would have to be more positive aspects and attractiveness of nuclear power. So what would it be? So primarily it would be, well, like overseas or Japan in 1960s, we need to look back on what happened at that time. They were excited. There was future potential for growth. People thought that if you are engaged in this industry, you can become rich. I think those are the kinds of images that the young people should have. So the new value and attractiveness of nuclear should be made more visible so that they can really attract people. But at the same time, there should be a strong commitment by the national government. So it has to be supported by the national government's will.
Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Takakura from Ministry of Education and Science and Technology, from your ministry's perspective, in order to further enhance the attractiveness of nuclear industry or nuclear power, What sort of initiatives do you think is necessary? As Professor Kurosaki said, so for this is a part of our ministry's jurisdiction. We're focusing on the universities. So based on the needs of industry, we have to work more. So we're working with Ministry of Economy, Trade and Industry since 1 year and a half ago, holding the nuclear classes. And as our ministry, it's not just nuclear departments, but students with other specialties will have to be provided with the opportunities to be exposed to nuclear industry. And that's what we're working on. And as was said, and not just university students, we are also targeting high school students to disseminate the information. And also, not just the students, but the general public or parents with students, children as students, have to be convinced that nuclear industry is safe. So we have to also appeal to the parents of those students, not just the students themselves. And we'll continue to work with the METI to develop the nuclear energy personnel. Thank you. From the industry perspective, the human resource development is something that we'd like to ask about. Mr. Matsumura from TBE, the METI has worked with the Ministry of Education, MEXT, to hold this class. And what's the reason behind you volunteer to participate? Well, first of all, with the efforts of those who are concerned, we have been able to hold this class, and I'd like to thank everybody who helped us. And the biggest reason for taking part in this initiative is that our valve and also cast steel expertise is what we have developed and accumulated, and we are wanting to share that with everybody in the industry. And our knowledge and expertise, together with other valve vendors and nuclear suppliers, we were able to share our expertise because of this class. And so with the more competitiveness and collaboration, we will be able to work together through this. And going forward, through these lessons and classes, we would like to promote further collaboration with the suppliers so that we can contribute in the business of new reactors construction, and we're hoping to create some synergy through this effort. And we, as TVE, are hoping to contribute to the development of nuclear industry as part of the efforts. Thank you. Next, from Jinzai Ikusei Network, I'd like to ask about the revision of roadmap. Yoshimura-san, what was the reason behind that, and what will be the initiatives that you are going to emphasize going forward? As for the background for revision, the whole nuclear industry is now being recognized as necessary technology around the world. So that is positive, but if that has become the case, then there is a gap in terms of human resources, and there will be more challenges. So what was put together 10 years ago have to also reflect the changes that have happened in recent years, so that we can provide the path to get us to the solution of the challenges in the industry. And well, as I said, there's a broad ground that we are covering in this initiative. So many things are important, but there are students in the audience today. So what I would like to say is that there is a fluidization of workforce. So every industry really wants and vie for talent. And the attractiveness and future potential of nuclear industry has to be communicated effectively. And previously, each company has talked about its initiative on nuclear business, but what sort of initiatives they have to do in order to make the nuclear energy look more attractive, and you have to have that in mind. And it's not just the individual companies' efforts, but the whole nuclear industry may have to get together to work on the initiative. And once the fluidization makes progress in the workforce, what sort of personnel with what kind of skill sets is necessary in what position, that should be communicated specifically. And if there's a need, then university can emphasize on that, and also we can also emphasize our training program, so industry and academia can work together to revitalize the human resources.
Thank you. I'd like to now start to summarize this session. There were presentations from the perspective of the industry and academia, and we had a panel discussion. So finally, from ANRE, Mr. Hara, could you give us your views as a government official in the area of human resource development? Thank you. I am from METI. My name is Hara, and it's not just the nuclear industry, but in any other industry, top-notch people would have to be retained and also should be hired, and that's a major challenge. The labor force is going to shrink or contract going forward in Japan. So securing good human resources is going to be even more challenging going forward. However, under the circumstances, we heard from the academia and from the industry the various views, and also the initiatives were presented. I'm very grateful. And as we develop policies going forward, I think it has been very informative. So I'd like to once again thank you for all the initiatives that you have been taking. Now, what you have talked about today, and there are many things that you have pointed out today, and there are commonalities or common thread. For more than 10 years, there has been no new builds in Japan. And unfortunately, because of that, the attractiveness of the nuclear industry as a whole have been eroded. So the maintaining and the securing of human resources, and also to continue with the skill sets, we have no more time left. So we have to take action now. And the Minister Saito of METI and also Mr. Murase, the Commissioner of ANRE, have pointed this out. So based on this sense of urgency, in the Diet session, GX Decarbonization Act was stipulated, and Basic Act on Atomic Energy will be amended so as to maintain and strengthen the human resources in the industry. And this was explicitly spelled out in the wording of the law. The enhancement of the skill sets, this is something that we as a government should be engaged in. And as Professor Kurosaki just mentioned, we have to really increase attractiveness. But as a basis of that, the sense of trust and also peace of mind, and that's really very fundamental. So we have to foster that as well. And as specific initiatives, MRI and TVE has talked about some of the activities, such as the training sessions. Those are very useful, and I think we do need to also incorporate that and also embrace that ourselves as a ministry. And in implementing these policies, as was mentioned, the Human Resource Development Network is very instrumental, and JAIF and the vendors and the academia, and also other ministries like the MEXT would have to all work together in collaboration. And this is the way in which we as a government want to address this. And finally, Hasegawa-san from Toshiba, you said that you were talking about the sense of meaning in working in the nuclear industry, and I was very encouraged by that remark, Hasegawa-san. Thank you very much. So going forward, as we proceed with our work in the government, we want to make sure that the young people like you will be pouring into this industry and will want to work in this industry. So we'd like to make sure that we will do that. Thank you very much. Now, we'd like to conclude this session. I would like to thank all of the members on the panel, and also thank you to the audience and those people who are participating online.
近藤様、パネリストの皆さん、
Thank you very much, Kondo-san, and also members on the panel. And please give the members of the panel a big round of applause.
それではただいまから15時15分まで
We'd like to take a break until 1/4 the hour. And if you're here in this room, please make sure to leave your translation receiver units on your table. So we'll be resuming at 1/4 the hour, 3:15 Japan time. Thank you.